Okay, it's the 10th of the 11th, 2013, and we're with John Gill. Can you just introduce who's with you there, John?
This is Rosie on my right hand side, and Fatima running.
Yep.
Over, yeah.
Now, you've got a book of evidence, shall we say, relating to a case.
Documented evidence of will and probate fraud.
Right.
To put it mildly. In the centre there is Rosie's solicitor, Michelle Mulhern, by solicitor in County Mayo. My brother met Rosie one day on the road, and she was in terrible depressed state. Number, and she made contact with me, and I met her then in the following weeks a number of times, and I took up the case for her. I prepared it very well before I brought it to court, and as well as going into the probate office in Dublin, and under pressure because a former president of the High Court had prevented ordinary people or people who weren't directly related from getting evidence from the probate office. But under pressure, them knowing who I was, they relented, and I got the evidence in Michelle Mulhern's handwriting. This was the division of the residue of the will between herself and her brother John. Now, I have later on checked out to see how accurate it was. John Clifford, her brother, was due €2,180 odd from his share of the residue. After everything was paid, for instance, the headstone, the funeral expenses, and whatever else. It was really a very professional job done by Michelle Mulhern of Denison Malloy Solicitors, who is now a TD, an Indy Kinney TD in Dáil, who gets a lot of time on television and radio and so on, and she behaved very badly in the end because she sent on the money due to Johnny Clifford and the cost of whatever to Audrey Shannon of McCabe Solicitors, Ballina, County Mayo, whose partner is actually Dermot Hewson, a very popular solicitor in Mayo, I believe, and around the country and the west of Ireland for that matter. And apparently, well, we got one clue that they sent back the money, but we don't know whether that's true or false. But Denison Malloy has promised anyway to supply whatever information is required to come to grips with this situation. Anyway, the will was successfully probated, and all of a sudden, maybe a few months later, Michelle Mulhern wrote to Rosie and told her to bring in certain documents and to her office, and it was actually in relation to a re-probate of the will of her father. Now, that one that they mentioned, the first that they mentioned nothing whatsoever of the re-probating of the will. From there on in, McCabe Solicitors, Audrey Shannon, began a procedure whereby, they robbed Rosie here beside me of 56,000 in total. The first trumped up a false and fraudulent court procedure, and it came before Justice Ray Fulham in Ballina Circuit Court, I believe. And at that stage, they were looking for 17,500 or something close to that, 17,000 euro. That didn't work out so well for them because I was on the back from there. I'd taken it up, and I'd accused them, and I'd already applied for most all of the the facts, the documentation, and the twisted ways, and it got a little bit out of hand, and it came then before Ballina Circuit Court before Judge Dunham McDonough, and her barrister, Johnny Clifford's barrister supposedly, but it was Audrey Shannon's barrister, and I fought the case for her. I told Judge Dunham McDonough that this lady beside me, Rosie, was that she didn't have the ability to, that she was shy and she didn't have the ability to defend herself. So he gave me the opportunity to defend her as a Mackenzie friend. So the judge, I handed up my documentation, because I had appealed the decision of Judge Ray Fulham to the High Court in Dublin, signed, sealed, stamped, and delivered. Now, Judge Dunham McDonough, in fairness, told the barrister and what's her name? Audrey Shannon, that this document, he checked it, was filed and accepted in the central office of the High Court, and he said that was good enough for him. They fumbled around and they found a way of taking it to before, all of a sudden, in a snap, before the High Court on Circuit in Castlebar the following week, before Judge Daniel Herbert, who we have a lot of problems with. Now, Daniel Herbert, because a crowd of us were there from Donegal, from Dublin, from all over Ireland, Tipperary, and even from County Derry, would you believe, because there are people from Derry that are robbed here in the 26 counties by the crooks. But anyway, he decided when we were around that the case would not be heard, so he transferred it to Sligo High Court on Circuit. What happened there actually was another mishmash of rubbish, and with the result that they didn't get any satisfaction. So they decided to bring it back again into, supported now by the County Register for County Mayo, who is Fintan Murphy, and they brought it back into the Circuit Court in Castlebar. Again, I defended Rosie there. I explained to the judge, and he gave me a fair chance to defend her. And after they had finished speaking, what they call counsel and the rest of the rubbish, I just handed my document, one of these documents with the documented evidence of John Clifford and the crooked Irish Land Registry officials who had colluded with them to put charges on not alone Rosie's property at home here in Magona, but also on the property that she had got, 3 farms of land that she had got from her relations there across Malina. Now, when that finished, I handed my stuff to Judge Tom O'Donnell, who was a Mayo for some reason from Limerick, and he read the documentation, and he kind of, without saying so, he sided with me. He made no order. We could not get an order. A retired guard and Rosie came to Castlebar the next day and and could not get an order. They told us to drop the order ourselves. I said, we can't drop the order because that's not our business. They failed in that respect. They then began a campaign of intimidation, threat of Rosie. Rosie had attended her doctor, and I had the doctor's letter from Lahardon here in Mayo. What's his name?
Dr. Paul Nolan.
Dr. Paul Nolan, yes, I have that, and a very sickening letter, and I was told actually to report him to the medical profession because what he did was very wrong. Now, because he colluded with these crooks in Ballina, the solicitors and so on.
One being in Westport, O'Malley.
O'Malley from Westport, that's right. She is a solicitor.
She is.
And she acknowledged receipt of They pursued Rosie around the streets and intimidated her and forced her to write out a cheque we have a copy of the cheque signed by O'Malley one that accepted for 43,500. Now the total money stolen from Rosie is 56,000 euro. We have all the documentation of the perjury, the false and fraudulent documents of the collusion with the Irish Land Registry Office. I drew up documents, and as I was asked to do on so many occasions, go to the Gardaí. We went to the Gardaí. I provide them with documented evidence with the result that Superintendent P. McHugh of Ballina Garda Station sent out two Gardaí, one from Castlemaine, one from Ballina. I think a guard and a
detective.
And a detective, that's correct. Now, they got down as far as Rosie's door, and if she turned the key on the door, they forced their way in. More or less, yeah. They were going to come in. Yeah, they interfered with an advisor against me and the victims of the legal profession, that I wasn't a legal person and that I had no right to do what I was doing. So anyway, I have a letter here from Superintendent P. McHugh to tell me that there was nothing else to be investigated. Now, I have been on to the people in the Bureau of Criminal Investigation in Dublin, and I explained them what happened, and then they led me to believe that it's not investigated. This case is not investigated. They must pursue this case. They must open it up. The Minister for Justice, Alan Shatter, has promised us in a letter. He has promised Benny McGrath, TD, independent, that in a letter, in a question to the Dáil, that in respect of the profession, that those people will be dealt with by the Bureau of Criminal Investigation.
When did this happen?
This happened over the last few months, only within months anyway. I have the letters here in this file. The letters are in the file. Now, there is we went to Ballina to expose Michelle Mulhern especially, because Michelle Mulhern is part and parcel of this fraud. A selected TD for council, part and parcel of the fraud. So we held 3 Saturdays ago in Ballina, and I lodged my evidence with the Gardaí early in the morning, myself and a few victims from Galway and around, and we parked our 3 wagons at the top of the Market Square in Ballina, and later on in the day we got a big photograph of the greatest crook in Ireland, which is Judge John O'Hagan, Circuit Court Judge, who was involved in, he's a serial offender in this kind of theft of money and property. But anyway, later on, we weren't too long there when 2 Gardaí arrived, uniformed Gardaí, and I believe we were told too that there was 2 non-uniformed Gardaí there as well. But anyway, they asked us to take down the sign, so we took away Judge John O'Hagan's big plaque, and we were told that these 2 Gardaí, uniformed Gardaí, were really not kind of more or less breaking the laws of the European Convention on Human Rights, interfering with peaceful protests, because we weren't shouting or we had no loudspeakers, and we were actually they may be the non-uniformed Gardaí. They told they had no right to be there. They had no right to interfere with us, with the result that they frightened a lot of people who were victims and wanted to talk to us. Again, they were sent out by their boss. They emphasised time and again, we were sent down here by our boss to do what we're doing what we were sent to do, and that was by another superintendent. I have his name, by the way, Superintendent Ballina. The boss came in, and we were our protest was reduced to nothing because the people after that, I had to walk down hundreds of yards down to Market Square to talk to victims, but they were scared to be seen with us on a peaceful protest. I mean, it's absolutely appalling. We have, for the first time in our history, we can say that superintendents and chief superintendents are interfering with due process.
They're covering up, you said?
They're covering up big time, big time.
Okay, thank you, John Gill.
You're very welcome.